Hey, patrons, subscribers, and fans and followers of the IR4 podcast. It's me, Jeremy Alexander Newsom. I'm actually here at a buddy's house in Boise, Idaho, traveling a little bit this week, and we have a really fantastic interview and podcast today. Apologies about the audio. There's a little bit of reverb, and I could not ever find out exactly where it was coming from. So you're going to have some reverb in the audio. So I just want to say I apologize about that, but it will not distract you immensely from really the phenomenal content that Jason Dekker provides. Brian was on fire in this interview today and just had a list of questions, a string of questions. I think I got 3 words in. But honestly, learned so much. And Jason, if you're watching this again, man, thank you for your time. It really was an exceptional interview. You're going to absolutely love it. So let's go ahead, dive right in, check that out. Thank you so much for watching. Thanks for subscribing to the IR4 podcast. You are amazing. Bye. So Jason, thank you so much again for taking your time this afternoon to meet with us. So can you tell us a little bit about your background, man? How'd you get started? Where'd you get started?
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for having us on. And my quick background is I started out 20 years ago in Internet 1.0 days, and started out as a proprietary trader in the late 90s, trading Internet stocks. A lot of Internet IPOs. So I've seen this movie before, where a lot of money comes in and builds a new industry, and it did very well. Started my own hedge fund in the early 2000s, ran it up to about 300 million at its peak. Then I was a partner and a founder in a biotech company, sold to a public company, had an organic food and beverage business, sold to my former business partner, and then had a bunch of angel tech investments along the way, where I currently have one unicorn in my portfolio where I invested in the A round and the convertible to the B, and then have a couple other active angel tech investments. And then my business partner, Travis, he's been building infrastructure and high throughput applications for the past 20 plus years. And most recently, he founded and built a company called IR4, major VC-backed startup, where they raised $17 million from top-tier VCs like Bain and Sapphire. And while at Iron, under his direction, they pioneered serverless cloud computing to over 1 million transactions a second. We obviously think that's super relevant to what's going on in blockchain scaling today. And we feel very fortunate to have Travis and our amazing dev team.
Fantastic! Wow, what a background.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's kind of something that we think separates us and really makes us different too. Is that not only do we have a world-class dev team, we think we've got a fantastic business team to match it. And at this stage of blockchain adoption in the world as a technology, we think that decentralized autonomous organizations, they're coming, but we think it's a little bit early for those, and they need business organizations like us to provide onboarding support, client success. We've got a full biz dev team and client success team to really support the ecosystem that we're trying to build out.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I think, one thing I have discussions about all over the place is when everyone wants to go decentral and everyone wants to have a non-centralized element, but I think that is very imperative to ensure that there's a jumpstart method and everything gets moved into a direction where it can be self-sustained, but more importantly, monitored in the beginning infancy stages.
Exactly. The thing is that what, at least from our perspective, what we think people should realize is you can't go from a centralized world to a decentralized one in one giant leap. You got to take baby steps, so we've kind of taken a little bit more of a step back towards the middle. And, the industry needs the decentralization maximalist to pull it that direction, but it also needs people like us to facilitate the process. And, at some point we can turn it over, but we just think we need to get, mass adoption and basically people using it in enterprise and everybody and everyday users and use cases before we do make that, that step to the decentralization and decentralized autonomous organizations.
Absolutely. When did you first hear about Bitcoin or the blockchain, and what attracted you to it first and foremost? And when did you decide to fully just, I'm going to dive in and go head first and build out GoChain?
Yeah, so I heard about Bitcoin, back in 2012-ish, maybe late 2011, early 2012. My background is hedge fund and trading, so obviously I was looking at it, and it seemed like anytime I heard about it, it was obviously having big run-ups, so I never really got in. And then I never did any research on it, and I was kind of moving out of the financial industry at the time, and so I kind of left it alone, but I had it on my radar. I bookmarked the price on my computer, and I used to check it, pretty regularly. So I kind of had my finger on the pulse as to, what was going on. And then when it had its big run up to, to 1,000, I think it was 2014, late 2013, early 2014, somewhere around then. I can't remember exactly when, but that's when I really kind of put it on my radar. That was like, okay, I think there's something to this. And then, coming into late 2014, early 2015, I started to have some of my close friends that are really, really smart guys get involved. And I thought, okay, now I really need to pay attention. And so, come 2016, I started to dip my toe in the markets and started to buy, some Bitcoin and Ethereum. And when I first bought Ethereum, I honestly, I had no idea even what it was. I just followed it mainly as a trading vehicle. And then I started looking at it. And then Travis and I, my business partner now, we started talking about it in, early to mid 2017. And that was the basic genesis of GoChain, as we saw the beginnings of what are the big problems today, and felt that we could come out with GoChain and address a lot of that stuff. Sure. Yeah. So we're a network protocol, so similar to Ethereum, EOS, Neo, Stellar, NEM, and the like. And so we basically build the foundational layer of the infrastructure for blockchain. So think of us as like, if somebody was going to build a city, we're building, the infrastructure in terms of like the roads and the plumbing and the electric and all that kind of thing. We're basically building the base infrastructure, and then the dApps and everything else will come on later and build on top of us. So those essentially be the houses or the shopping centers or the office buildings and the big football stadiums and the like. So we're kind of that, ground level foundational, kind of the pipes and the plumbing and the electric layer.
And I know, and Jeremy, I'm sure you've done your homework, but I know what separates you guys from all the other infrastructure platform plays. But why don't you go ahead and tell us what the big, I guess, top three differences that GoChain has going for them?
Sure. I mean, the first is that, we kind of see three things in order to have, if this is again from our standpoint, we see three things in order for blockchain to really become a really big technology in the world. And the first one is scaling. So obviously, we came in and took the Ethereum code base and updated it and upgraded it for speed and performance. We changed proof of work to proof of reputation, which is an upgraded form of proof of authority. We rewrote the code base for speed and performance, and then we used some off-chain data storage and data compression that Travis utilized that iron to handle the data. So that's on the scaling side. So we're currently at 1,300 transactions a second. We're capping at that because we just don't need any more. So we think from a scaling standpoint, the technology is now at a point to where the scaling should happen faster than the adoption. That leads us into the second thing, which is adoption. And so that's kind of the second layer. And in order to gain that adoption, we think you need a business development team and a customer success team. So to our knowledge, we have the only customer success team in all of blockchain. There probably is another one or a few that we don't know about, But we brought on Matt King, who who's head of our biz dev. He's Harvard undergrad, Yale Business School. He worked at Morgan Stanley and Microsoft. He's extremely well connected, and he's just been fantastic on the biz dev side. And then we hired Ian Alexander away from IBM Hyperledger, who knows the whole blockchain space extremely well, and just felt a little bit handcuffed at a big company where they weren't. It's IBM. It's hard to innovate when they've got 100,000 or 200,000 or whatever, how many employees they have. I don't even know. But the point is that it's hard to be entrepreneurial at those big organizations. And so, he really saw a way to come and work with us in a lot of different capacities and really get his feet wet with a lot of different projects and help them, onboard and use his knowledge and experience and provide support to where he basically interfaces with, the dev teams of the projects building on GoChain and our dev teams to provide them anything they need from either an onboarding standpoint or going forward, capacity. Then the last pillar that we really see where we're different is on the governance side. We brought on David Koenig, who's one of the foremost experts on governance in the world. He's written a book called Governance Reimagined, in which he basically brought together the work of several Nobel laureates in a comprehensive governance and risk management framework that had never been done before. He's got over 200 book recommendations. It's super critically acclaimed by, a ton of academics, a ton of head of investment banks, risk management think tanks, and heads of sovereign wealth funds and the like. And the whole point there where I'm going is that inevitably things can and will go wrong with new technology. And the whole purpose of governance is twofold. It's to foster innovation and also to be malleable at the same time, so that when something breaks, it can be easily fixed properly, so that it breaks well and breaks properly. And there's kind of, for lack of a better word, an emergency response team or protocols in place to handle that and to fix that. And so he came to us. It's his first foray into blockchain, and he basically said, "Hey, look, your proof of reputation is most similar to what I wrote about in my book, and I can really put some meat on the bones to your skeleton governance framework that you built." And so, the next 6 weeks or so, we think we'll have the most comprehensive governance framework in all of blockchain that will be built out by David, who's, like I said, one of the foremost experts in the world. And the big difference between that and the rest of the industry is some of these other protocols are taking really big political stances and trying to bring that into their governance framework. And politics and governance are not the same thing, and they don't necessarily stand up well to resolving disputes and managing things when they break. They make for good sound bites. They sound good and they may resonate with people, but the reality is there's a pragmatism to just making sure that things are done the right way. And we're trying to bring in the proper experts, and then we're going to stress test everything as well to make sure that it's holds up.
Wow, what a team! What a team behind you that you have behind you guys, doing some phenomenal stuff. I would like to highlight one thing, and that's the energy consumption component.
Sure.
I don't think a lot of people are recognizing now. Well, perhaps a little, but I think more people are. When are the markets going to come back? What's the next DApp, and what's the next ICO? And they're not really looking at the problem of consensus in the sense of mining and the energy consumption that goes along with that. But with you guys, you are probably one of the most clean and environmentally friendly protocols out there, correct?
Correct. Yeah, that's a big deal to us. And, from a social impact perspective, I mean, we think that obviously that proof of work is just a tremendous waste of energy. And I think Ethereum and some of the other chains, I mean, they know that well. I heard Joe Lubin speak at TechCrunch last week, and he talked about what an incredible waste it is. And, he said they had some reasons for their delays to proof of stake, which I'm sure are legitimate. But I think, the industry really understands that really needs to change quick, because it's just, it's not even overkill anymore. It's just sheer stupidity. And there's no reason that they basically need to have these, factory farms in China to invest in Bitcoin and Ethereum and some of these other major coins. It's not needed.
Right, absolutely. So I guess this is a more broad question, but so where do you see the industry growing? A lot of people are losing hope right now because they're just looking at prices and they're not really looking at the revolutionary aspect behind the technology. But what can you say for our viewers who do know what cryptocurrency and blockchain technology is, and where you think it's going to be going in the next, I don't know, 3 to 5 year forecast?
Yeah, so couple things. I mean, look, we like to think that we're pretty old for blockchain. I mean, you can't see it with my hair because it's colored at the moment, but I got a little gray hair under there, and my business partner Travis too. And the point of it is I did grow up in Internet 1.0 days, and I saw 2008, and I've seen new industries, whether it was just the internet or social media, come along and get built. And the point with that I'm trying to make is that, the blockchain space needs to have patience, just like the internet did. And right now it reminds me of literally like the mid to late 90s, where I remember when the internet first came on and people were selling stuff on the internet. This was very, very early, and everyone saying, don't put your credit card on the internet. They're going to steal all your money. They're going to max them out. And then once people started buying stuff, then it moved to, well, no one's going to buy clothes on the internet because they can't try them on, or they can't touch, tangible things and all this stuff. And the reality is that with any new technology, there's always skepticism, and it requires patience, and it requires boom and bust cycles like this to show us what's working, what's not, and to also bring in, like you guys have talked about, the proper teams with the proper backgrounds and patience and pragmatism to ride it out and have a long-term view. I mean, if people are in this for the short term, great for some of the guys that might get in and make a little bit of money, but for Travis and myself and for our team, look, we've been successful in other businesses, and making a little bit of money or short-term stuff doesn't move the needle for us. We're here for the long term. We see the long game, and we're trying to build something for 5, 10, 15, 20 years out. And so we think it's going to take several more years, on that. And to that end, basically how we see this is that we think that enterprise needs to get on the blockchain. And in order to do that, we've done several things. We think that enterprise wants a permission trusted node network. That's why we've done that. We also think they want an enterprise level of support where there's a business development team, there's a customer success team, there's a phone number, there's an email, they can get people on the phone. That stuff doesn't exist right now. And I understand, I got hacked really bad because someone got my phone number and they did some social engineering. And so trust me, I know I don't want to give out my phone number, but the reality is stuff like that, they didn't get any money, by the way. They tried. But the point I'm making is that somebody needs to go out there and literally put one foot in front of the other and take the slow, methodical route and build this properly and bring the right people in and build it brick by brick. And that's what we're trying to do. We're not trying to come in and
I love it.
Go up 100x and then crash and then, we're gone. We're trying to come in and really build something that lasts.
I love it. Brick by brick. Jeremy, I'm taking all the questions. I'm going to let you.
I'm just stunned, man. It's just such a caliber. You're a great person, Jason. Thank you for working with us today. One of my questions is, with such a challenging launch, and again, congratulations for such a recent and successful launch, what were 3 of your biggest challenges in getting GoChain off the ground and up and running?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, when we initially launched our ICO, I mean, it was a whole bunch of things happened. I mean, it was like the blind leading the blind. I mean, I've raised probably 300 plus million for about 350 million for ventures that I've been involved in. And, we had pretty good success raising money, but, hiring service providers and things like that we didn't know who to trust. We didn't know where to go. setting up everything, lawyers, domiciles, the legal and regulatory landscape. I mean, honestly, it was like a minefield to start. And so, yeah, most of our advisors came on late in the game too. So Travis and I somehow kind of figured it out. We also, when we launched our ICO, it was in February, like right near the initial low. I think February 6th was the first low. And that's about when we started. And like people were laughing at us because no one was investing. And we really, put the time in. I spent like 24 hours a day on Telegram, literally answering every single question, letting people know that like, hey, I'm here and this is my project. And if you have a question, I'm going to answer it and you're going to hear directly from me. And, we got a little bit of pushback on that, but for the most part, people really appreciated that. And they understood it that, hey, we're really here. So in terms of the challenges, it was, obviously the market downturn. And then there at the time, there were no kind of streamlined processes, which we've now since tried to put in place for, other companies launching on GoChain. We've done a partnership with PrimaBlock, who's the #1 pooling software. So they've got an Ethereum integration and a GoChain integration. So that's all the, ICO syndicates. And then we've also done a partnership with safecontracts.io. They've done 50 plus ICOs, and we worked with them on all the pain points to develop basically one-stop shop software solution to deploy an ICO on GoChain that will do whitelist, KYC, AML, smart contract auditing, and mainnet token swaps. Like our mainnet token swap took us like 2 months to complete.
Yeah.
So these guys were like, hey, we want to work with you guys and like clean a bunch of these. Like we had to do it manually, and to do that,
Wow.
to do that too, we ended up KYCing every single person twice. Yeah, and we had to do it, and for the mainnet token swap, we had to do it manually. So everyone, is this the way it was to do it properly, and that's why, we ended up with some of the streamlined solutions that we have today. And it took a lot of manpower, and it was it just was very labor intensive. So I kind of feel like we paved the way for some of these these new projects coming along where we did it the hard way.
Wow. So Jason, can you talk to us a little bit about who is coming on chain, who's building on chain, what ICOs are being launched right now? Just maybe give us like a top 3 and a brief explanation behind them.
Sure. Yeah, I'll give you 4 that are in process that we're working with. And so we've got 4 that we've announced. We've talked to another probably 50 projects, and I'd say there's another 20 to 25 that really want to launch on our platform. It's just a matter of crypto winter turning to crypto spring. So we're in like the deep freeze, but yeah, the 4 companies that are looking to launch or that we've already agreed to support. The first one is job.com, and so basically they're disrupting the online and recruiting space for job postings. We think that they're a very strong project. I mean, they've already got, I think, 20 plus million, almost 30 million users for, their existing business. Job.com, the domain itself is, probably worth, I don't know, I'm going to guess, but probably worth $7 to $10 million. And it's worth a lot. It's hard to get, a domain like that. Basically what they're doing is they're partnering with companies. They're charging companies 6% where the normal is 20 to 30%. And they're giving applicants a 5% signing bonus upon them getting hired. And then they're just charging 1% that's going back to them. So we think that's going to be, they've got a really strong team that comes from the enterprise world. And like I said, they already have a strong existing business. That's the first one. Second one is VeriToken, which is an identity management solution and supply chain solution. So they're working with, the UN and like the World Health Organization, and they've got a bunch of countries in Europe, on these identity solutions, and they're working with tons of governments, also supply chain. So, basically food sourcing from basically almost like farm to table kind of all the way along.
Wow.
So that's one. Again, worked by some really young, talented. I think Devin, who's the head guy over there. He's got a lot of I would say raw abilities in terms of being a great entrepreneur from what I've seen in my dealings with him. Then the next one is Solister Health. That's run by Stuart Lackey, and they're backed by a seed stage VC called Breovation. And what they're doing is looking to build an interoperability layer on GoChain for healthcare and patient data, basically healthcare data. They're basically what they think is that all the mistakes that were being made pre-blockchain are being made post-blockchain, where they're siloing all the medical data and medical records, and they're trying to create a central, healthcare data language standard where there's, one place that everyone can go to get this information, because it just doesn't make any sense. It's, almost 2020, and no one has your medical records and data, and it's really hard to get. And two hospitals could be across the street from each other, and you don't have your data.
And correct me if I'm wrong, Jason. They are located here, and Jeremy, you should take note of this, in Nashville, Tennessee. Correct?
Correct. Yes.
We may need to get plugged in with them to get them on the podcast. But
Absolutely.
they're here local.
Yeah, I'm happy to make that introduction. I know Nashville's a hot spot for healthcare and pharma, and so be happy. They've also done a partnership with VeriToken, on that as well, and so that those companies are working together. But so we think that, and something that we did with that is we also introduced them to a great advisor, Rick Kimball, the former head of healthcare banking at Goldman Sachs. So he's been instrumental in working with those guys, and I think he'll be a good addition for them, and really open some doors to to try to get into that world and make that work. And then the next one is Etherprise, which is a project that we're closely associated with. Travis's former business partner Chad is the CEO, and Jameson, who's one of our advisors, is also a C-level executive over there. And we think that that's an extremely strong project. It's basically has a very special use case in the sense that it's privacy, permissions, and security based blockchain that is more for people that, not people, but companies that want to do their payroll or sales commissions or some of their contracts on the blockchain, but it's encrypted. I don't think you want everybody knowing what you're paying your employees, and if you want to pay them in crypto, you probably want encrypted smart contracts, and then security, privacy, and permission. So let's say you want 4 people to have access to a database. We can set that up with, through Etherprise, where everybody has private keys, and that basically the head person, if they want to, move someone to a different project, or if they, let go of somebody, they can literally push a button and it'll delete all of the private keys and say cut it from 4 to 3, and it'll send new private keys to the other 3 people. So there's a lot there too in terms of enterprise use cases. And
would that be considered a permission based chain or a private chain? Okay.
Yeah, kind of both. I mean, that's kind of what we're looking to support them on, is that it'll almost be an extension of GoChain, to where it's got very specific use cases, and it'll be interoperable to basically where, let's say, an enterprise company wants to do everything or as much as they can on the blockchain. GoChain would be the public chain, and Etherprise would basically be the private chain.
Got it.
For that solution, and then with the interoperability, it'll make all that clean and easy. And like I said, Jameson also, he's an advisor to us. He was a former VP at Catalytic. He's got a bunch of exits under his belt too. He's our age as well, so he's he's kind of been around the block, and I think they've got a really strong executive team and a strong offering that we're really happy to support.
Awesome. Jeremy, do you have any other questions? Because I do have one that's probably going to pivot this conversation in more of a very political one. So Jason, a lot of people have claimed EOS to be the Ethereum killer, if you will, but instead of taking an approach where it would be disruptive to community growth, you guys are allowing for coinciding or Ethereum integration. Can you give us kind of the reason why you chose to go down that route versus an EOS route, and how you foresee Ethereum's existence to date? I mean, people can come over from Ethereum onto GoChain with no problem, correct?
Yeah,
So,
it's a seamless
what was the
integration.
choice? What was the choice behind all that?
Yeah, so a few things. I mean, look, it doesn't really matter what the technology is. Everybody loves an industry standard. And the industry standard thus far has been Ethereum. Obviously they ran into some problems. We saw it early, and hence why we've done, what we've done. And to give people just a little more background on that too, about 18 months ago, we were working with Ethereum and ran into the beginning problems of the, latency, network congestion, high gas fees, high, all that kind of stuff. And so Travis took a look at the Ethereum Go code base. He's a Go developer, and he just saw a lot of ways that he could make it better. And so that's, the genesis of GoChain. Hence, Go developers, we, basically upgrade the Ethereum Go, Go code base, hence GoChain. So that's how it was born. In terms of, the quote unquote killer side of things, we look at it totally different. We look at cooperation is much stronger and much better. And if you look at nature, the things that cooperate are actually much stronger, and they become much bigger rather than the things that try to kill each other. And so we see it from a totally different lens and a totally different perspective. And also, we're not coming in with a political beef. I know that, Vitalik's kind of more of the Occupy Wall Street, and Dan Larimer's, more of the libertarian, and that's fine. But we're not taking any sort of political stance on that, and don't have any bone to pick, with them in terms of our differences. And the way we see it is everyone loves an industry standard. Ethereum is basically it. We saw a way to come in with a trusted permission node network that is not the exact same as Ethereum. It has, potentially different use cases, more on the enterprise level. So Ethereum is an untrusted, unpermissioned node network, and that's got a separate use case for a lot of people. And if they understand it, then, they can understand that those are the differences. And so it isn't, totally competitive. We're doing a lot of things the same, but on that level too, we also saw it as a way that it de-risks people working with GoChain. Either if they like Ethereum, but there's, the network congestion, they switch over to us now, and maybe Ethereum comes out with something better later, or they want to switch back. We're frontwards and backwards compatible. They can do that. And anyone coming to build on GoChain, because it's, compatible with Ethereum, if for some reason they wanted to switch, it gives them a fallback position. So just, again, from a pure business standpoint, we thought it made a lot of sense. And we also come from the world of industry standards, and potentially at some point down the line, maybe there's a way that we can work with Ethereum to potentially make GoChain and Ethereum interoperable. I mean, the only thing that is stopping that right now is just them being willing to talk with us. And I can't speak for them whether they think we're competitive or not, but I think the industry is large enough and big enough. And like I said, there is a pretty big difference in terms of the node network and consensus algorithms and some of the things that we're doing that I think the world's big enough for all of us. And what I would say though is what I do think will be a big differentiator in the long term is the governance structure and framework. And that's kind of what we're really spending a lot of time and money and effort and energy on, to make sure that no matter what we do, we can stand the test of time.
So how does one become is it a master node in this network?
So, I mean, it's not a master node. It's basically a block producer similar to what EOS is doing. And so, our proof of reputation model, we've got corporate entities running the nodes, and we just think that's that's a much higher barrier of security. And so in proof of work, what's at stake is energy, and in proof of stake, what's at stake is a monetary value or money. In proof of reputation, what's at stake is a company's corporate reputation and the market cap of their company. And so what we've done is a couple things. We've got corporate entities have to apply, and then we're also forcing geographic dispersion so that we cannot end up with, what's happening with Ethereum and Bitcoin, where essentially you've got 4 mining pools in China accounting for 70 to 80% of the hash power. So in order to run a node or be a block producer, on our network to sign blocks, a corporate entity needs to apply to us. We've got an application on our website. If we like it, we'll do an interview with them. Then if we approve it, we'll set up a Telegram group with them, make sure that they have the proper hardware specs. And this is something that nobody else is doing either, and I don't know why. But we're taking an enterprise approach from the beginning. Again, it doesn't really matter to us what anybody else is doing, but we're just trying to do things right from the beginning. So if we approve a node to come onto our network, we set up a Telegram group, say, here's the basic minimum hardware specs. Once they get those, we give them the software. Then we debug the software, which typically takes, 3 to 5 days, sometimes maybe takes 7. Then we crank the testnet up to 1,300 transactions a second for 4 to 7 days to make sure they can handle it. There's no latency, no other bugs or problems. And then and only then will we turn them on our main net.
Wow.
And to us, that just seems like...
That seems so obvious, Jason.
Yeah, right? And I'm not trying to call out or put down, one of the other, networks. But what they've done is, they've got essentially, they vote on block producers, and then they have some recommended hardware specs, but then these block producers are doing whatever they want. And then they have an audit committee that's coming in a few months later and auditing them. And, I've been told that at least half of those block producers are going to get kicked off because they don't have the right hardware specs. And from our perspective, it's like, why would they go through the drama of doing that? And that's really going to, upset a lot of people. And if they got the votes and they are a legitimate block producer, why wouldn't somebody basically sit down with them and be like, hey, this is what you need. These are the minimum standards to do this, instead of going through the drama of letting them, fire it up and then sending an accounting team in after that to basically audit it and then say, okay, you're not good enough. And then they kick you out, and literally there's a new vote and they may not be able to get back in. Yep.
Absolutely. Man, so Jason, for people, our listeners that want to get involved, stay up to date with GoChain, purchase some GoChain or some GoCoin, what's the best advice you have for them? Because as you said earlier, the trend line of the internet back in the mid to late 90s, that's kind of what we're seeing here, and I agree with you wholeheartedly. But how can people get more involved so they don't miss out on opportunities, not only to maybe make some money, but opportunities to get involved with some technology and like if I was involved with Amazon way back in the day, it's you are a true pioneer as far as mass adoption goes, and you can say I was there and I was a part of it. And then there's people who can also build on it as well. So I'm sorry, before that, the question of where the trend line going and how people get involved. Do you guys have, and I was going to ask this earlier, some like sandbox or some type of consensus, if you will, like it's consensus to Ethereum, where there is a firm or a group of people that is external to GoChain that is helping individuals learn how to build on GoChain, or is that just done eternally right now?
It's done internally, but we've put out some documentation, that's on our GitHub, on our Medium, and we're also in the process of creating some videos, and we're going to be putting out a lot more documentation on that. But to make that easier, just to kind of, add some more colors, we do have a couple partnerships that we haven't announced them yet, but they've already been agreed, and I'll talk about them just in general with a few middleware companies. One is basically like a Wix for enterprise dApps run by guys that have raised 130 million in venture financing for their previous company. So, very accomplished group that knows what they're doing. So that'll make it easy for, enterprises to, deploy dApps on GoChain. And then the second one is a true middleware solution that will allow dApp developers to literally write in any programming language, .NET, C#, Python,
Wow, awesome.
Java, and the like. And it's got a Solidity compiler, in behind to do that. But this is what I'm telling you in these partnerships that we've built, and why it's important is that if you're a decentralized autonomous organization, those guys are basically banking on the fact that somebody comes and builds that stuff, where what we are doing is we're actively going out and looking for companies that are already built the projects, and then, forming partnerships with them, and, doing whatever we can to try to streamline it and make it so that it's already there, to make these, implementations and processes easier. And so to really kind of come back full circle to answer your question, we're doing it internally, and we're going to beef that up quite a bit, but we will continue to announce more partnerships to, on a continual basis to just make it easier for people to get involved, and whether it's individuals or enterprises to build dApps and build whatever they want on GoChain.
Man, that's awesome. That is awesome. I think the visionary approach that you guys have taken, combined with the experience, and combined, I think, with how more people in this industry should be thinking versus, I think we saw at the beginning of blockchain coming into the world, a lot of people getting rich quick and a lot of people trying to follow suit, versus now we're really providing some solutions. Well, you guys are providing the total infrastructure for these solutions. People are already building on you, and it sounds like, healthcare, recruitment, privacy, and permission change to extrapolate on that infrastructure. It just sounds like you guys really have your head on your shoulders and you're moving in the right way. Where can people go to follow you, Telegram channel, all that website?
Yeah, so GoChain.io is the best place, and then there's links to literally all of our social channels from there to get all of the information. And then obviously we've got our Telegram group is super active. I mean, I went on vacation and I came back I was gone for I think 9 days, and I came back to 27,000 Telegram messages.
Wow.
In the GoChain Telegram. So we have a very, very strong active community, and we've got a Telegram updates channel, as well. But I'd say if anybody has any questions, go to our website and they'll be able to get anywhere from there. That's just the easiest, the easiest route. And in terms of if somebody wants to buy GoChain, KuCoin has been an amazing partner for us. We've been in the top volume, since we launched there. They've given us a USDT trading pair as well recently, so someone can buy in Bitcoin, Ethereum, or Tether on on KuCoin. We just recently launched on Bittrex and Upbit, and Binance has announced that they're going to launch tomorrow.
Wow.
So, and I think there's a few more that are in process as well, that have told us that they're going to launch some smaller ones and the like. And so we think it should be pretty easy for people to be able to find us to buy the token. And again, one thing I want to stress is that we see this as a long-term project. And what I will say too is that from a broad perspective in the space, this is definitely we're nearer to the bottom of a big bust cycle, and I think you're going to see a lot of these tokens that didn't manage their treasury properly or just weren't strong projects. They're going to get wiped out, and I think that's good. And I think the strong ones will stay. And I think that if people are looking at this from trading or investment purposes, I think that if they look at the ones that are taking a longer term approach, those are the ones that will probably stand the test of time. And I would say that we're probably within within a month or a few months of you know, a bottom, and it doesn't necessarily mean we're going to go straight back up. But I think this is a time that if people aren't involved in blockchain or they're looking to get more involved, I think this is a good time.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. And again, Jason, we appreciate your time very much. So we could have probably went down a few more rabbit holes and talked about token economics,
Sure.
more into the dApps that are being built. So we should definitely do this again. We'll get on a second call, maybe a couple months from now, for a status
Great.
update and see where you guys are at. But best of luck to you. Thank you so much for your time. And everyone out there in IR4 world, thanks for tuning in, and we will catch you guys later.
Yep. Take care, everyone. Thanks, Jason.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure.